Okay, so for this first part, I'm going to look at the story of salvation. So we need to know why we're here. And, for those of you who are Star Wars fans, there's a scene from Return of the Jedi where C-3PO is telling a story to the bears. And he says, wonderful, we are now part of the tribe. So he tells the story about Darth Vader. And so, and then, the little Ewoks, they're called, they start celebrating. Okay, so yay! Because C-3PO has just told them the story. Whereas that Star Wars is not real, this story is real. And this story is real because if you were to look at this line right here as a timeline, okay, if this is the beginning of the world, and this is here where we are right now, and there's the end of the world over there, smack dab in the middle is Jesus, okay? He's the center. And everything else right here, all this leads to him, and this flows from him, okay? And so, in the beginning, what was the name of the book in the Bible that starts off the Bible? Genesis. Genesis means the beginning. Because in the beginning, God created the world in 6 days. On the seventh day, he rested. And he created our first parents. Also, he created the angels. And the angels were meant to be perfect. See, the parents, our first parents, they were called Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve were created to be perfect. They were not meant to die. Okay, wherever our first parents were. But then, because of the fallen, because of the light bearer, there was the best and brightest of the angels. There were zillions and zillions and zillions of angels. And there was a war that took place here because there was the best and brightest. His name was the light bearer. And in Latin, that word is lux, L-U-X. You got good looks, the lux. Ifer means the bearer, the one who carries the light. And Lucifer, in his pride, said, I don't want to serve you, God. Okay? Because the angels and human beings were created, we are in the image and likeness of God. And how are you in the image and likeness of God? Because of your cabeza, because of your noggin. Or you Filipinos here, your coconut up here. Because you have reason, okay? But then you also have, here's your heart. You have free will. So you're in the image and likeness of God because God thinks in his cabeza, in his coconut, and God acts in his will. Okay? You are not robots where you are programmed to do something. You are meant to be human beings, right? So Lucifer, out of his freedom, said, I will not serve you, God. And according to tradition, he took 1/3 of the angels with him. These are the fallen angels, the fallen spirits. And so, at the beginning of time, Lucifer is no longer the light bearer. He lost his light. He became the devil. He's now Satan. Okay, not Satan, Satan. And Satan, the devil, tempted our first parents, and they also sinned. And they rebelled. Okay, one of the angels that was loyal to God was a guy by the name of Michael. And Michael, or Michael, translated in English, El means God, who is like God. Okay, and Michael led the loyal angels against the fallen angels, and they fell, and they gave Satan the boot. Okay, and so Satan and his minions eventually tempt Adam and Eve, and they also sin. They were no longer in the state of friendship with God, okay, where they die, they go to heaven. They are now in the state of sin, or what's called original sin, the first sin. All right, this is important because this is going to eventually lead us to baptism. Adam and Eve, our first parents, they represented humanity. They represented all of us. And they are no longer in the state of friendship with God. They are not in the state of grace anymore. Okay? They are now in the state of sin. And all of the Old Testament, I'm going to sum this up for all y'all here. All of the Old Testament is meant because whereas the angels, once they choose against God, that's it. They're set. Human beings, for some reason, God says to the human beings, you know what? You sinned. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm going to save you. I'm going to rescue you. So all of the Old Testament is meant to prepare for God saving us from eternal death. Okay? He doesn't do this with the angels. Lucifer cannot say, oh, gee, God, it's hot here in hell. Oh, I changed my mind. Lucifer, the devil, cannot do that. Because he's made his choice. But we fallen, weak creatures, for some reason, God wants to forgive us. God wants to forgive us. So Adam, he promises, I will prepare you and save you. Okay? The book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, okay, all the way down, he gives us the law. He chooses Abraham, Isaac. Okay? Before Abraham, there was a guy named Noah. Right? You know the story, how they took 2 animals on board? And God rescues Noah from the flood. Okay? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, who is renamed Israel. Welcome.
Thank you.
Named Israel. His name was changed to Israel. And then Joseph. And then the Israelis, the Hebrews, were in slavery in Egypt. And then Moses took them out. Then Moses helped give the 10 Commandments. And then the law. And then the prophets. The prophets were the teachers. And then we got David, or Saul, David, Solomon. They built the temple. Then we're going to the prophet Jeremiah. They destroyed the temple. And then about 500 years later, the people of Israel, that's where Jesus is born. Okay? So everything here, everybody here is saying, you're going to have a prophet. He's coming soon. He's going to be born. Isaiah is saying, you're going to be born, born of a virgin. And he's going to rescue his people. And so God sends his son. Okay, so all of that, I just summarized the Old Testament in like 5 minutes for you. Okay? So let's take another 5-10 minutes here. So the angel says, Mary, you're going to have a son. Or will you bear God's son? And Mary says, she's a little girl, and she says, yes, I am the handmaid of the Lord. Let it be done to me as you say. And at that moment, bam, she was pregnant. Okay? Once she gave her consent. Because whereas Adam and Eve screwed up, Jesus and Mary will reverse that. Mary is the new Eve. Jesus is the second Adam. These guys said no. These two said yes. Okay? So Mary is carries Jesus in her womb for 9 months, and then we have Christmas. Oh, look at cute little baby Jesus. He's born, right? He's hungry, he's cold, he's tired, they want to kill him. Yeah, even at that age, they want to kill him. And he's persecuted, and nobody knows about this, right? Okay, this is important because later on he learns how to become a carpenter. I don't know if anybody here a carpenter, anybody here in construction? All right, well, you're kind of like that. So he's 12 years old. We hear a little bit about him. And then we don't hear about him until he's age 30. Okay, and then when he's age 30, then he starts announcing, like in the Lord of the Rings, how the kingdom of the whole earth is just covered in darkness. Okay? But then the light starts, it's like a flicker of light. It's starting to burn. And he's saying, the kingdom of God is at hand. He's announcing that he's going to save the world, basically. Okay? And so, from age 30, if any of you are age 30, you're the age that Jesus was when he started preaching and doing miracles. From age 30 to age 33, this is where Jesus does his public ministry. He touches things. He cures people. He does miracles. He proves it that he is who he is. And here's the thing. If I said to you, let's reflect for a moment here about Jesus. Because if some dude were to walk in that door and do this, I am the way, the truth, and the life, everybody, come worship me. Come on. If some dude were to do that, and I'm teaching the class here, I'm going to look at this guy and say, you crazy, man. You crazy. Get out of here. You're not the way, the truth, and the life to God. Who in the world says, I am the only way to God? You're either crazy, or you're a liar, or you put on a good show. Or it's true, or you really are the way, the truth, and the life. So right now, at this moment, the very first question for you is, Jesus, who is Jesus? And Jesus, if you're saying, well, he's just a great guy. Well, yeah, he was a great guy. He's a teacher. Well, yeah, he was a teacher. Yeah, he worked miracles. He was a healer. Yeah, that's great. He's my friend. Okay, that's great. He's my buddy. Okay, he's God. Okay, yes. But what did he do that no other religious founder ever did? Okay, he rose from the dead. He proved that he was the Son of God. And this is important because if we think that he's just a great guy, we're going to live like he's just a great guy. But if he's the Savior of the world, okay, then that's where we say, oh my gosh, I got to get my act together. So eventually, Jesus, during these 3 years, he says, so that's what we have to ask ourselves. Who is Jesus in our life? Jesus gives us his church. And here's the story. Jesus turns, how many apostles did he gather? I mean, how many original apostles did he gather? 12, okay? And one of them was a guy by the name of Simon. And Simon says, well, they're one morning, they're like at a campfire. I'm just making this part up, but I don't know, whatever they were doing, they're at a campfire, right? And it's like 5 a.m, and the sun's coming over the hill, and they're like warming themselves by the fire, and all of a sudden Jesus says, he's doing his ministry, his public ministry, he's healing people, everybody's starting to hear about him. He says, who do people say that I am? And they're like, whoa. Who do people say that I am? And then some of them are like this. One of them says, you're one of the prophets. You're John the Baptist. You're Elijah, one of the prophets. And then you know what Jesus says? He says, yeah, that's what they say who I am. But who do you say that I am? Okay. He's doing that to you. Who do you say that I am? And you know what? One guy named Simon says, just like the game, Simon says, pat your head. Simon says, pat your tummy. Stand up. Stand up. You moved. Simon didn't say. So the game is that I have to say Simon says, otherwise you're out, right? Simon says, I say that you are the Christ. He uses a different term. He doesn't say you're just a great guy, Jesus. You're a prophet. Jesus says Simon says you are the Christ. So here's Simon saying, I say that you are the Christ. And then Jesus says back to him, you say that I am the Christ. I say that you are Peter. They give names to each other. You probably do this with your buddies. Hey, you know what? You're going to be called, Gusto, because you're just Gusto awesome, He changes names because there's a new office. And then Jesus says, I will give to you the keys to the kingdom. Here's the keys to my car. Here's the keys to my office, my house, some locks. Here you go. No, I'm kidding. You're not going to take that. Because what happens if I give you my keys?
Then you can't get into your things.
Yes, and what have I just given you? I've given you... What's that? I heard it. I gave my life to you. Exactly. And that's what Jesus did. I gave you authority, right? I gave you authority over my life. I'm not going to do that. You saw me. I was like this. So Jesus gives Simon the keys. Because for us Catholics, we believe that when Jesus did this in Matthew chapter 16, he says, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Peter becomes the leader of the 12. He becomes the head of the apostles. He is one of the first overseers. So in the Bible, the word is episkopoi. Okay? He's one of the apostles are described as episkopoi, and in English, the translation is bishop. Okay? So the 12 apostles were bishops. They were overseers, episkopoi. But Peter, Simon Peter, because he says, you are the anointed one. You are the one prepared to save us. Peter Jesus says, blessed are you, Simon, son of Joan. Nobody's revealed this to you. I say that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Peter becomes the first papa. The first, or in English, it's translated as the first pope. Okay, so for us Catholics, who is let's just fast forward a little bit right here, right? Because that's the beginning of the world. Here's year 2018 right now. Who is the pope right now? Francis. If you trace who was the pope before Francis? No. Benedict. Then you go to John Paul II, John Paul I, Paul VI, John the 23rd. Then you go to Pius the 12th. All the way down, bam, 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 266 times, bam, bam, bam. Then you go to Simon Peter. In the Catholic Church, we have an unbroken line of succession. Jesus was brilliant. Okay? He left us, and the 12 apostles, they ordained other men to replace them, other bishops to replace them, all the way down. Now today we have about 6,000 bishops all over the world, in every country. Every country the gospel is being proclaimed there. Okay? This is what makes us very special. And now Jesus also gives us 7 sacraments. Okay, I'll define what sacrament means in a moment. He gives these moments to the church. Okay? So he founds the Catholic Church. Okay, the Catholic Church is universal. It's not meant for one culture. It's universal. That's what the word Catholic means. It means for everybody. Okay? And here's the other thing. If Peter was the first pope, who was the second pope? The second pope is a guy by the name, think of Charlie Brown. Linus. Okay, so the apostles spread around the Mediterranean world. Andrew goes to Greece. James goes to Spain. Thomas goes to India. Matthew goes to Ethiopia. You follow me? You see what I'm doing? Peter goes to Rome. And in Rome, there's a hill called the Vatican. And archaeologists discovered the bones of a fisherman who we believe are the bones of Simon Peter. So St. Peter's Church, they built a church on Vatican Hill. The word Vatican simply means 7 hills. And so it's where Peter was crucified upside down, because he said he was not worthy to die like Jesus. And that's where he was killed. John goes to Ephesus and then Patmos. He's the one that took care of the Blessed Mother. Okay? And eventually, the Vatican is where we build the church. And that's the headquarters of the Catholic Church. Okay, so all through time, then Paul writes his letters, a reading from the letter of Paul to the Romans, Acts of the Apostles, then the book of Revelation, and here we are in 2018. Okay? And somewhere here, we believe as Christians, as Catholics, that Jesus, you know how he was crucified, right? Here, because I'm back here in this timeline. Crucified, died, he was buried he was a real man. He was a real man, true God and true man. He ascended to heaven, but we also believe that Jesus will return, his second coming, but sometime here, we don't know when. It could be in 5 minutes. It could be in 5 years, it could be in 50 years, it could be in 1,000 years. But Jesus will return again. But Jesus is not going to come back as a cute little baby that we saw. Oh, so cute. I want to eat you and hug you and smell you and kiss you. Where Jesus was persecuted here, over here, Jesus is going to return back in glory. And this is where everybody's going to rise from the dead. And this is where Judgment Day happens. The Terminator movie, they had Terminator Part 3, Judgment Day. Well, really, Judgment Day is the end of the world. That's it. Bam. See, it's important for us Catholic. I know there might be some of you who might not be Catholic here, but if you ever heard somebody say things like, "Are you Catholic or Christian?" You had people say that to you? I have. They're Protestants. Because you're both. I am all Christians, all Catholics are Christians, but not all Christians are Catholics. All Catholics are Christians, but not all Christians are Catholics. The reason why they say that, do you go to a Catholic school or a Christian school? Well, I'm both. And the reason why is because about the year 1521, right over here, a Catholic priest by the name of Martin Luther said, all you need is the Bible. Screw the church. I don't need the Pope. I do my own thing. And Martin Luther, in the year 1521, protested against the Catholic Church. And because of that one line, the Bible alone, sola scriptura, only the Bible, this one idea in the year 1521 by a Catholic priest, you have to this day 40,000 different Protestant denominations, the Baptist Church, the Lutheran Church, the Episcopalian Church. You follow me? The First Church of the Nazarene. They broke away. They protested based off of this. That's why we use the word Protestant. And they protested against the Catholic Church because the church is saying, no, you need the church and the Bible. Okay. And so they don't have the priesthood. They don't have the papacy, which means they don't have the Eucharist. As we'll see later, to have the Eucharist, you have to have the priesthood. And so, but we have the same baptism, right? That's what we share in common with them. Okay? So, this is the beauty of being Catholics, because we can trace ourselves all the way back here. All right, so what I've done is I've just summarized the Bible I went a little bit over, it's like 20 minutes. Okay? Here's the Old Testament. God created the world perfectly. We fell. God prepares for His Son. His Son is, bam, right smack dab in the middle. This is the church. We are right here in 2018. Bam, and then Jesus will return in glory to judge the living and the dead. I just summarized everything from Genesis to Revelation. The last word in Revelation is Amen. All right? Now, let's go back to what I said about C-3PO. Because C-3PO, when he was talking about Darth Vader, Death Star, right? He was telling a story. C-3PO says, wonderful, we are now part of the tribe. That's what I'm doing here. I just told you our story. And you are part of this story. You are part of this whole story of creation, the fall, the redemption, salvation, where we're announcing the gospel to all the nations, and we're looking with joy to the return of Jesus at His second coming. Okay, now this is important because these babies are part of this story. I'm going to erase this stuff about the devil and Lucifer. Can I do that? And so everybody was in the state of original sin, but Jesus broke that. All right, it's like Adam and Eve. They put a lock. Here's the gates of heaven. They put a big lock on the gates of heaven. Even good people could not go to heaven. But then when Jesus died on the cross and He rose from the dead, that's what we're doing for Lent right now. We're preparing for the mysteries. Okay? This is why we exist. This is why we're all here. This is why we go to church. This is why we do this. This is why we baptize. Because of this moment, this central moment in history. This story that these babies are going to be part of. And so I say, to close off this part, wonderful. We are now part of the tribe. Okay? We're done with that first point. Now, having done that, I have to mention something about this. This is important. Because this is kind of like a little retreat experience for you. Okay? Remember how I said we were created in the image and likeness of God over here, right? How are you in the image and likeness of God? If any of you are in the medical profession, can you raise your hand if you're in the medical profession? Okay? What is one of the important organs of the body? What must you have? Thank you. The heart. And according to some medical professionals, the heart is probably more important than the brain. But the heart is important, right? The brain is also important. I mean, you could say things like, well, my stomach and my left pinky toe or my eyeball. Well, you can survive without your eyeball. You can survive without your pinky toe. You can survive without your appendix, right? Parts of your body. You cannot survive without your heart. You dead. Is that right? Okay. So the heart, how are you, and the brain, your cabeza. I'm going to take this picture and then just blow it up. Okay, so double click on this for me, please. How are we in the image and likeness of God? Because of reason and free will. I notice I did not just say will. I said free will. Because dogs and animals have will, but they are really not free. Human beings have free will. And so we are in the image and likeness of God because of, there are other things you can say. Well, also, at the beginning of time, God created the male and female. So human beings are meant in the image and likeness of God because we reflect that image in God. Here's what this is important. Because when you and I were baptized, okay, when Adam and Eve were alive, they were in the state of grace. You know, when I first heard this word grace, I was a little kid. I was like, oh, Grace. I know a girl named Grace. And, you know, back then, Joe Montana and Bill Walsh were the bomb. Okay, they still are. I'm sorry, they're still the bomb. Nobody can replace them. So Joe Montana and Jerry Rice were the bomb because when Joe Montana threw that football, he caught it with such grace. Right? That's not what I mean by grace. I do that silly example so you can remember this. What I mean by grace is the opposite of sin. All right? When we're in the state of grace, you're in the state of friendship with God. So we want you to live and die in the state of friendship with God. Okay? The opposite of that, we do not want you to die in the state of sin. Because how do we know if we're in the state of sin? In fact, we can know this because there are three conditions. There are three conditions of being. Can I erase this sola scriptura? By the way, sola scriptura is nowhere in the Bible. Nowhere does it say only the Bible in the Bible. Weird, huh? And yet that is what has caused a big break and division in Christianity. All right, think about that for a minute. Yeah. Okay, so you are the image and likeness of God because you are reason and free will. All right, here we go. The first condition of falling away from God's grace is if you have full knowledge that something is wrong. So you know that something is right or wrong because of your coconut. Okay? So full knowledge. Then you know that something is, you give your full consent. You're not forced. I'm not taking my Glock and going, all right, I want you to kill that mofo over here. You know, I'm sorry, sorry, Lord. I want you to kill this guy over here. Okay, right? And here's a gun. I want you to kill him. Okay, I'm not going to force you. You have to give your full consent. Sorry, Lord. I'm still working on that. So you have to give your full consent. Okay, and then it has to be over a serious matter. All right, it has to be. It's not something like, I'm going to kill you over, tying my shoelaces. That's not a serious matter, right? It's serious matter if it has to do with the Ten Commandments. Serious matter. All right, so if all three of these conditions are there, and you know it's wrong, and you still choose it, and it's over something serious, just cut yourself off from grace. Okay, and if somebody that dies in the state of grace, in the state of sin, you have to die in the state of grace to go to heaven. By the way, on this timeline, I'm right here. Yeah, go ahead.
So Commandments, right?
Yeah.
So the Ten Commandments has, what's in the Ten Commandments?
Okay.
Thou shalt not lie.
By the way, when I train catechists, when I train teachers,
Okay, so
I require them to memorize the Ten
my
Commandments.
point,
But go
my
ahead.
point is, so is there really a person that doesn't break one of the things in the Ten Commandments?
Everybody's a sinner.
That's a
The only person that has not sinned is Jesus and Mary. Okay? But here's the point. Our job is to try not to sin, right?
Try.
Yes, you do your best. Because, and you will be given grace. You're given help to not break. See, because otherwise everybody's going to go, well, I'll just go and break it, you know? And you're not going to try. You have to try. You know, come as you are, but when you leave, you're going to leave changed. Okay? I don't want you to stew in your sin. We want you changed. This day, by the end of the day, I want you to say, you know what? I want to rethink that, you know what? Maybe my life with God, I haven't been close to you, and you know, I screwed up. Look, I just screwed up. I almost said a cuss word. Right? And I've been a practicing Catholic for 30 years. But, you know, what I do is I go back and I say, God, I'm sorry. Because, and, you know, that's the idea. And then, you know, I'll probably say that in confession next time. Because I got to go to confession again. We'll talk about that in a moment. But what I want you to do, and this is how I love you, is I want you to go to heaven. Okay? Because we want you in the state of grace. We want you in the state of baptismal innocence. We want you in the state of love. And here's the thing. Think about this for a moment. If somebody that you love says, honey, I told you not to go, I don't know, I'm making this up. I don't know. Give me something here. You know, love, honey, I like you. I want to marry you and everything. But, you know, I told you not to smoke cigars because I don't like, I'm making that up. That's a stupid example, but just go with it, okay? You knew that I don't like you smoking cigars, but you still did it. You did it to my face. All right? That's what deadly sin is. God saying, you know what, guys, I love you. I just told you this is what doesn't make me happy, right? Because there are things that don't make you happy, right? But you did it to my face. And no, now if you say, okay, I'm sorry, right? Now, so you guys say, okay, sorry, I smoked a cigar or whatever. Then you're restored back to grace, right? This is what the beauty of being human is, that we fall, we get back up, we fall. It's like that song, I fall down, I fall down, and I get up again. Thank you. Okay? That's what it is. You fall, you get back up again, and then you know what? You're going to fall again, get back up again. And this happens for 20, 30, 40 times on the road. You're going to fall. The problem, what you don't want to do is you fall,